the only way you'll stick to it in the long term is by finding joy in the process. Hi, I'm Karl, and this is not a crafting video, although it is a video about crafting. You see, in the last couple of weeks I've been doing a lot of thinking about why anyone makes miniature terrain by hand. It's not to justify it to myself. The reason I've been doing this for years is because I get a lot out of it. What I was thinking about was why someone who never touched a cutting mat before would take it upon themselves to start. Especially in these days when you can buy or 3D print terrain very easily. From what I've seen, quite a few new terrain crafters start because commercial terrain can be expensive. Sure, there are some kits that are black market kidney prices, but even the more modestly priced ones can add up if you need enough for a full table. That is certainly a good reason to start, but it won't necessarily keep you going in the long term. If you don't enjoy the process, you're likely going to give up sooner rather than later. Another reason I've seen, and admittedly this is more from people who craft for tabletop role-playing games rather than war games, is that they have something incredibly specific in mind and there just isn't anything even close that can be bought. Again, this is a great goal, and my advice for these people is usually to manage their expectations. They already have a target, but they don't necessarily have the skill set to achieve it yet. It can take a few attempts, or they can take a longer route, maybe make a few different pieces to figure out the skills they need and build up to it. You don't expect to be able to play Stairway to Heaven the first time you touch a guitar, and this is no different. Then there are people who think being able to make stuff is cool, and they want to be able to do this. I get this, I'm a skill monkey, so I keep trying to learn all sorts of things from sword fighting to handstands and a whole lot of unrelated skills. Although, yeah, the handstands are still a work in progress. My advice for these people is the same as that for the previous group. Although generally, people who like to learn new skills are well aware that there's going to be a learning curve. Whichever way you get into crafting, the only way you'll stick to it in the long term is by finding joy in the process. But let me start off with some good news. There's plenty of it to be found. Building things with your hands is ridiculously satisfying. Sure, some projects have ugly faces, and 99% of the time it's not going to turn out exactly how you planned it. But the feeling when you see something taking shape? I also find great value in repetitive steps. They're incredibly relaxing. I do not have the attention span for meditation, but the moment I start gluing bricks, brain disengages and I'm in a thought-free environment. These days, when everything is so noisy and chaotic, that moment of rest is useful to keep me going the rest of the day. And of course, there's the satisfaction of putting down a finished piece on the table and knowing you made that from literal garbage. Of course, problems will come up along the way, but don't panic. In most cases, it's very difficult to totally ruin a project in a way that can't be fixed. As you get more experienced, fixing mistakes becomes a matter of course. Also, try to understand why something failed. In some cases, you could find something that you could use in the future. For example, some glues dissolve foams in ways that leave interesting textures, and inks can react with glues in unexpected ways. Now, sometimes you'll find things that just don't work for you. In my case, that's tree canopies. I'm not going to say it's a good thing because it can be incredibly frustrating. But instead of throwing in the towel, you can make it your personal challenge to figure out a way. And you do not need to do that by yourself. You can find groups of crafters everywhere. There's the Tabletop Crafters group and Poor Man's Tabletop Miniature and Terrain Crafting on Facebook. Or you can check my Discord to find more crafters to talk to and bounce ideas off of. You get to meet fun people and learn new stuff. You can learn a lot by watching YouTube videos and trying techniques on your own, but without some kind of two-way feedback, you're going to get a lot less out of it. Way back when I was just starting off, I got a lot of advice and feedback from folks at the wargaming club I used to go to. And I can tell you, the quality of my work ramped up with that. If you can get that kind of thing in person, that's great, but if not, there's always the internet. And if you're a more experienced crafter who somehow stuck around this far into the video, do try to share your insights with newer people if they ask. It doesn't just improve the community, you'd be surprised how much you learn by breaking down the process to explain it to someone else. Also, drop a comment to tell us how you started crafting. If you're on the fence about making your own terrain, go grab yourself some cardboard and glue and dig in. You can find some ideas in this playlist right here. I look forward to seeing what you make. You have fun, and I'll see you around. Bye!